I'm not a mathematician, I'm only an amateur. I did a presentation for our homeschool collective a year ago, and I have a lot of personal research material left over, and I wanted to make some of it available. This is Math, Movies, and People. Some of the interesting characters I have learned about from movies. So I'm going to share some characters and movies that I recommend for learning more about making math something more embraceable. I took an American literature class from the eloquent John Smith. He wrote My Mother Played the Piano and the Hugs book series that you used to see in Hallmark stores from Howard Publishing.
What a great class. What a great guy. Always loved hearing him talk.
We would go through the literature, but my favorite part of the class was reading the 1 to 2 page biographical sketches of the writers. I liked the writings, but I liked hearing stories about what the kind of people they were and what sort of adventures fueled their stories. My love for math was middle-age onset. So my appreciation for these characters grew from literature and movies and just living life.
Turing's Cathedral by George Dyson.
I listened to this book on audio when I was a taxi driver. It's the whole Bletchley Park story about the Enigma code breakers during World War II. It's always been a story that I really like. Though the character who certainly deserves a lot of the credit, Alan Turing, the other people involved in that project have interesting careers in the decades that followed by doing government work and the development of what we now know as the computers that we use right here on our desktops. John Van Neumann was a character who he probably should have a movie about him. A key character in the development of computers in the 20th century. Alan Turing was one of his contemporaries. Alan Turing is considered a pioneer of computing for his work at Bletchley Park during World War II and in the breaking of the Enigma coding machine that the Germans used. In recent years, there have been some movies exploiting Turing's sexual preferences and making it the center of the film, but the center of the film was his mind as an innovative thinker. His concept for computer programming started in his head as a theory, ended up being the method of modern computer language programming. I like Benoit Mandelbrot because I just like his work. He worked at IBM in the 50s and had access to the computers with graphical outputs. So he was able to input recursion formulas, which outputted some beautiful renderings that were termed fractals. These formulas that trace back to these fractal theories have helped cartographers put on paper some of the complex concepts like how to measure the coast of England. The graphical concepts of these recursion formulas were revolutionary for creating new worlds and forests which imitated nature better than drawing them individually. I mention him here because the movies that I remember going to with my dad to see Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan in 1982, when the planet Genesis was being created, we had never seen anything like that before. And it was all created using fractal math. There is an extensive treatment about this at Inverse.com, the first solely computer-generated segment in a film, all the way back in 1982. And of course, it was the people from Industrial Light and Magic.
There's a lot of math that has been portrayed on the silver screen, and this is a movie well worth watching. You have to probably Google this guy's name because you better write it down with a pencil because it's not that easy to say, but this guy was a genius. It's interesting because when a westernized person says a genius, we usually say that the person is advanced in critical thinking skills. This guy was from the East. He was an Indian. And the interesting thing about his story is that, he said early on that a goddess was in charge of his dreaming. She would show him things in his dreams. A lot of his mathematics was intuitive. He was so close without going through all the structured proofs. He got a lot of stuff right just by his gut feelings, if you want to call it that.
Did you know that before computers were the names of machines, that people who worked problems out on paper were called computers? The story of Hidden Figures was about a set of ladies who worked on NASA projects during the space race days. This is also a special commentary film on the underappreciated women of color and the struggles and triumphs that they had in the American space program. Flatland has been done a couple of different times. Very few movies are done in mathematical principles, but this one is, and it's based on a classic piece of literature by Edwin Abbott. A Beautiful Mind is an excellent Ron Howard film about the Nobel laureate in economics, John Nash. The film uses dramatic effects to allow the viewer to experience mental illness, yet an observation of a true genius at work. My wife and I watched this little love story, X plus Y, when I was preparing for my speech, and I was looking for math all over the place, and I found a few math movies. It's cute. It's worth watching. Saving the best for last, if you have never seen it, and if you only take one single recommendation, please do yourself a favor and go watch Donald in Math Magic Land. It is the best. Well, that's my list, and you can get your own. Just do a Google search or keep reading your books and see where it takes you.